Welcome back, guys. My name is Parker. This is Backyard Barn Finds, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Wicked Will Smallwood. He's part of the Smallwood brothers, who were notorious for street racing back in the late 1960s and then turned over to pro stock racing throughout the 70s. Will,
Yes.
how are you?
Oh, nice meeting you, Parker.
Nice meeting you.
All right.
So, Will, I've had the pleasure of actually reading your book, The Legendary Smallwood Brothers, where they can get that on Amazon. Is that right?
That's correct.
But what I wanted to do is just kind of go through sections of the book and just kind of put your history out there for the audience to see. We're here in North Carolina, and you're originally from Washington, North Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How did you end up in New York?
Well, I moved to New York in 1963. I was 17 years old. But you have to remember, things was a little tight in this neck of the woods at the time.
Okay.
So blacks was moving to up north in groves where they could live a better life. You know what I'm saying? And we was able to find that there.
You have a brother named James,
Yes.
right? And James is no longer with us,
Yes.
correct?
He passed in 2012.
And James is only 1 year older than you.
That's correct.
And that's what makes up the Smallwood brothers,
That's
right?
correct.
I read in the book that you and James, when you were younger, you lived along the highway.
Highway 17.
Highway 17. And that you guys would memorize every single car that kind of went by, and that's kind of what like sparked your interest into cars. Can you kind of elaborate on what it was like with James kind of living back here in the day and how that kind of all started?
We always been competitive. It was a competition between the two as well. We trained ourselves to know every car that moved. If we didn't know it, we would find out. We would see another one coming by soon. We would go ask my dad. My dad was a detailer. He worked for Swain Buick.
Okay.
And he brought cars home every single day. Every day they allowed him to bring the cars that he had to detail home. So we got a chance to get inside of the cars and learn about the cars, and see what the inside looked like and everything. So we all the magazines that we could get our hands on, you know, we just want to learn about cars, and we began to know every single car that moved. Actually, we used to go to New York every summer, and even on the bus.
Up until you were 17?
Yes, we went every summer until we went at 17. Even when we was on the bus riding to New York, we would be looking out the window, learning cars, you know, identifying different cars, and that was what we did.
What was some of your favorite cars from when you were 8 or 9, 10 years old? Do you remember those at all?
My favorite car was, my dad worked for the Buick Company. He worked for Swain Buick, and that was my favorite car, because all on our wall in our house we had big old pictures, maybe by 12 by 12 by 12 by 8s, pictures of Buicks all around our living room, in our bedrooms, because it was beautiful pictures of Buick. Back in the day, they really did a good job with cars back then, and so we had Buicks. So Buick was my favorite car.
Tell me what it was like when you got to New York at 17 years old. And in the book, it elaborates that you guys kind of were a little bit of an entrepreneur back in the day. In other words, you went there basically because there was more money in New York.
Yes, absolutely.
And did you just straight buy a car, start racing from the beginning, or kind of how did you dip your toe into the street racing scene in New York at such a young age?
Well, we first thought to we bought out. You know, we had to get a job. First thing we did, you know, family got us a job. That was automatic because a lot of people of our family had migrated to New York earlier.
Okay.
And so they was in place. They had apartments, they had cars, they had jobs. So the first thing we had to do was get a job. And then once we got us a job, we started keeping it, you know, because you live with family, you don't have to pay a lot of money. At that time, the rent was like, you could get a 6-room apartment for $65 a month. In New York now, it's $6,000 a month. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So family would let you live there relatively cheap, for free, basically. And then you could save your money. We began to save our money. And when the first car I ever bought, believe it or not, I bought a 60 Bonneville. This was in like 1965, maybe. I paid $350 for it. Went to New Jersey, out on Route 1 and 9, paid $350. You could buy a used car for $350.
It's pretty damn cool.
You know what I'm saying?
I didn't read that one in the book, and it said that you started out racing in a Dodge Monaco.
Yes.
And that's a pretty big car.
Well, what happened was our uncle, we bought that car from our uncle. He you know, that's what really helped us out.
Okay.
Our uncle gave us that car. You know, we paid him, but you know how that is.
And I read that your uncle had 409
Impala.
63 Impala.
Yes.
Was that a pretty fast car?
Oh, that car was a monster. That was a 4-speed, 450 horses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from the factory. That 409 was a bad motor scooter.
Did he ever let you kind of take that car out and race that at all? Or?
No, he let us ride with him.
Ride with him. Okay.
You know, he would let my dad drive it, but he wouldn't let us touch it.
Gotcha. And you were 17.
Yes.
At that time?
Yes.
You didn't win a whole lot of races with that car, and you didn't really bet a whole lot of money with that car because you didn't really have a lot of money starting out.
That's exactly right.
Is that kind of how it worked?
That was when we was in the $200, $300 range. That was when we bet that kind of money, when we had the Dodge Monaco.
Okay.
And we won. We won with it.
Do you remember some of the races that you took place in that car? That's like an old cop car, basically.
Yes,
is the way I remember
but
it.
But that 383 was a powerful engine.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And it is to this. That 383 is what we had in that. And I remember the first race that we raced with it. We raced down Red Hook, and we raced this Puerto Rican guy. He had a 66 442, and we raced him for like $500, and we beat him, and at the very end, he turned his car over. He ran it under a train. It was a train depot down there, and he wouldn't get out of the gas because he was trying to catch up. And so when he hit his brake, he lost control of the car, and it rolled under a train.
Oh my goodness.
Actually rolled up. Yeah, total wheels were right off it.
Now, Red Hook, was that a hot spot back in the day?
Yes, it was. It was right down on the waterfront.
On the waterfront.
It was on the waterfront.
And did you guys kind of meet up there? Or?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if you just saw these guys driving in the street and you guys just kind of went somewhere, or it was like a crew.
But that was just one of the spots we went.
Just one of the spots.
But we first cut our beans in a Red Hook.
Now after the Monaco, then you switched to a 66 442.
Yes.
And that's the car that you really started modifying.
Yes.
What were some of the early modifications that you would do on that 442 to kind of get more power out of it?
Well, we changed the rear gears. We went to a 433. We put a cam in it. I can't remember exactly what size of the cam that we put in it. I know that we had a 650 Holly on it. We put headers on it and everything, and that made a difference.
And what year was this?
This year was in '67. Now we're in the '67 now.
In '67.
Yeah, we had '67.
And how old would you have been with that 442?
I was 21.
21. Because the way I was always understanding is you guys were like the young guys.
Well, we were on
the street.
Yes, all the way through. Even when we went into pro stock, we was still the kids. When we went into pro stock, I was 24 years old when I first got in pro stock. I want to think I was one of the youngest drivers there were. I want to think.
I think I read that you were 24 when you went pro.
Yeah.
I mean, that's young.
Yes.
That's very
young. We had our own rig.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We had our own rig. I never drove for anybody but us. And most guys came in, they drove for somebody else first and all that. No.
And how much were you winning per race on the street back in 1967 with the 442? I know that the pots got bigger as you got more and more notoriety.
We had a lot of $1,000. We very rarely raced under $1,000.
How long did you have the 442?
1 year.
1 year?
1 year.
And what car would you have switched to after that?
I went to a 64. Went backwards in model year, but a better car. We went to a 65 F85 that we bought from a guy named Lou. He was the mechanic at Gaines Oldsmobile on Flatbush Avenue.
Gotcha.
And we found out that he had a low 12-second car for sale for $4,000. So we went and bought that from him.
Now, I read that the F85, the reason you chose that is because it was a lighter car.
It was lighter.
It was lighter.
And lighter.
Did you take the motor out of the 442?
No, because he had his motor was better than the one we had in the 442.
Got you. Okay. And I read that it was probably pushing 450 horse,
yes,
425 horse.
Yeah, I mean it ran consistent low 12s.
Oh, cool. What was that car successful?
Yes, we never lost with it.
Oh, you didn't?
We never lost with that car.
I know that you guys didn't lose much in the street, but I wasn't sure which car was the most famous. What was?
I would think that first Saxon Martin car, that was the most famous.
And that was the '69 notchback.
Yes, that baby. That was something.
And you guys actually purchased about 4 Sox and Martin cars.
Yes, we did.
And we'll get to that here in just a moment. The F85, can you walk us through some of the maybe street races that you remember with that car, maybe people that you raced, or just any memories with that car at all?
One of our better races was a race with a guy called Uncle Buddy. He had a service station down on Park Avenue, and that was the place where all the guys hung around. It was one of the places. There were several service stations that the guys hung around for street races, but Uncle Buddy was famous. And he had a Grand Sport Buick.
Oh, wow.
But it was a 13-second car. That was pretty hot. 13 seconds wasn't nothing to sneeze at back in the day.
Grand Sports were pretty.
Yes, and but we had him covered.
Okay.
And so we beat him for $3,000.
And I read that in your book that you raced a couple different corrections officers. I don't know why that stuck out to me or something. Was that like a crew of corrections officers?
No, well, people that got money do a lot of the same things.
Gotcha. So they're employed by the state.
Yes, they had a pretty good income,
Gotcha.
And so they bought race cars. One of them was a good friend of mine. His name was. We became great friends. His name was Benjamin Jenkins. We called him Boo.
Boo. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he had one. He was pretty hot.
Now, I've also read that the police would kind of shut down kind of streets back
They would
then
do it.
for you. Was that part of the maybe corrections officer connection or something that back then, or was that a different time period, or what?
Well, I heard this. I don't know this for a fact. I heard that actually Tab was the one that actually started that.
Okay.
You giving them a little something.
Gotcha.
I just benefited from it because, like I said, I was one of the young guys.
Right.
I never went and talked to.
And how old would Tab have been?
Tab was older than me. Tab might have been, probably. Tab would have been 85 now, so Tab might have been 8 years older than me.
Gotcha. Okay, just a little. Okay, I understand that. For those that don't know, Tab, he had Dino Don's Camry Mustang.
Yes, he did.
Is that the car that he would have driven that you would have remembered him with?
Yes.
Or did he have other cars?
He had other cars too, but that Mustang is one that made him famous.
Gotcha. Okay. Now after basically the 44 or the F85, I read that you purchased a 1969 Olds 442.
Hurst Oldsmobile.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that car. How did that come about?
Well, that car, we went to a place called Dick Gidron Oldsmobile over in New York City, and we bought that car. We paid $6,000 cash for that car, and the car ran real good, but it kind of muffled when you got down on it. It would take off real fast, and it would throw like doing like that.
Sure.
So we knew that we weren't gonna win like that, and it was a beautiful car and it got a lot of attention, but we wanted to win with it.
And that's a car that kind of started your, I would say, relationship
With the speed shop.
with Motion Performance.
Yes.
See, Joel Rosen from Motion Performance or Baldwin Motion had a lot of different deals that he would do with different people. And there was a kit called the Top Cat kit.
That's the one we bought from him.
And that was on your car.
Yes.
And what came in that kit?
That kit, it came with the Mallory ignition. It came with they put a 433 gears in the rear. They had a quick shift kit in the transmission, a 650 carburetor on it,
and
traction bars.
What would you run? Like, what would be I know it was in the street, but like, do you have like maybe an estimated
A
time?
low 12 seconds.
A low 12 seconds.
Low 12 seconds.
And
that car was very, very heavy.
Yeah.
So
well,
that was pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good for that car. Do you remember what it was like meeting Joel Rosen back then? Was he kind of like a known guy, or was it just like, what made you want to go to Motion Performance to kind of?
Well, the word get around.
The word got around.
The word got around to us, and we know. I don't remember how we got there, but I'm sure it was because the word people just started talking that Motion had it going on out there.
Right. Okay.
And that was where we went out there.
Now, you also told me that you were friends with Brooklyn Heavy.
Absolutely.
And you're actually related to him, right?
We're in-laws.
In-laws.
His brother William married my Aunt Rose, my daddy's youngest sister.
And you've mentioned to me that you actually took Brooklyn Heavy to go to Motion to buy his '69 Camaro.
Absolutely.
His wild pumpkin
Absolutely.
Camaro.
When we was out there getting the Top Cat kit on the Hurst Oldsmobiles, we spotted it in the showroom. They actually had it in the showroom.
Really?
And we talked to them about the price of it, and we came back and we told Heavy about it. And see, we had been winning. Heavy wasn't racing that time. not to know, we're not waiting nobody paid me to mine.
Gotcha.
And so he paid us some mine, and he wanted to know about that car. So we took him out there. He gave the man $6,000 cash, and
There's a little, I wouldn't say discrepancy, but there's a couple people out there that say that they have that car and it started out as a blue car. And I was always under the assumption that it originally was a 396 car and it was the show car for Baldwin Motion. Do you remember what color that car was?
If I'm not mistaken, I know time thing changes, but if I'm not mistaken, it was orange.
It was orange?
It with a 427 in it.
I believe it had the hood changed on it. Do you remember what hood was on it whenever you bought it?
I don't remember that.
Gotcha.
I can't remember.
Okay.
But if I'm not mistaken, it was orange.
Did you ever race in the street with him at all?
No, well, we kind of was like, we kind of looked out for each other. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't.
I know you weren't like part of his crew. You were
no,
just
no.
kind of family,
that was people said that, but I wasn't.
Right.
Like I said, just because we was in-laws.
Right.
So we was around each other. I got a picture in my book about, at his 36th birthday party. I was there.
Yeah, I remember. He looks pretty young in that photo, actually.
Yes. So we went to the same events. We went to the same parties. And normally we didn't race against each other in the streets.
I wasn't sure if you ever beat him or he beat you. Or
well, just kind of, sort of. I lost to one of his cars.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
What car was that?
The Duster. Levi beat me.
Oh,
Levi beat me in Suffolk, Virginia, which I would like to forget.
You were getting kind of noticed on the street, and walk us through some of the money that you were winning back then, because I've talked to a lot of people, and of course they've said that you were able to make more money racing in the streets of New York than basically anywhere else.
Absolutely. It was a nothing race for $2,000, $5,000. To be honest, the most I've ever raced for is $10,000, but I raced for so many $10,000.
Okay.
It was a lot of $5,000, a lot of $10,000. I mean, that went on for years. But my biggest purchase was $10,000.
Now, I also read in the book that you would take your car to Connecticut, the drag strip there, and kind of test and tune on during the week.
We did a lot of that.
A lot of that?
We rented Islip out in Long Island. We rented that track. We rented Atco. Not Atco, but Island. We rented Island, yep.
Okay.
And it wasn't much at the time. $350. We could rent the track for $350. Rescue squad and everything be out there.
Was it just you and your brother, or
Yes.
did you have a crew that you worked with?
Well, it was just me and my brother.
Just you and your brother.
We had a guy that drove the trucks for us. We had our little crew, but basically it was just us.
I read somewhere that you would fly some people out sometime to work on your cars. Is that true?
Well,
it was a Sox and Martin mechanic or something.
Yes, that's true. A guy named Barry Earns.
Okay.
Yes.
And how did that kind of work? What year would that have been?
That was in the 71, 72 era.
Okay, so that was a little bit, a couple years later.
Yes.
Now, did you keep the Oldsmobile for a pretty long time, or did you sell it, or what kind of happened to that car?
I'm going to be honest. I don't remember what we did with the Oldsmobile.
Really? That'd be a pretty expensive car these days.
You mean the Hearst Oldsmobile?
Yes.
The Hearst Oldsmobile. I don't remember what we did with it. Because things got to moving so fast for us. Because once we got that Sox motor equipment, we weren't interested in the other stuff anymore.
Well, the reason I was bringing up the Connecticut stuff is because I read somewhere that you saw Dick Landy race.
Yes.
In Connecticut.
Yes, I did.
And that's kind of what kind of switched you guys over to the Hemi stuff,
Yes.
which led you down the road to buying the Sox and Martin cars.
That's absolutely true.
And what was that like watching him?
Oh man, that did it for me.
That was it.
That did it. When I seen Landy, he was driving a Challenger, and the thing wheel standing, the sound of that Hemi engine, that was it.
Turned into a Chrysler guy right there.
I said, I'm a Chrysler man. This is it. This is the way I want to go. Awesome. That was it.
And so basically, from that moment forward, you saw an ad in National Dragster magazine for a 1969 notchback 440 CUDA.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about how that started your introduction to Ronnie Sox or Sox Martin and Buddy Martin. How that kind of tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, I like the system that Ronnie and Buddy them had. When you would buy a car from them, they would take you down to Piedmont, a little track about 10 miles or better from them, and then they would put Ronnie in the car. And not only that, Ronnie would put you in the car with him.
Did you know them before then?
No, that was it. That was my first introduction to Ronnie Sox and Buddy Martin.
And how did that you just like saw an ad? And,
Seen the ad in the National Dragster.
and then did they have the car up north or was it down in here in North
It
Carolina?
was in Burlington.
Oh, it was in Burlington.
It was in Burlington.
Gotcha.
It was at
okay.
their shop.
And that was a pretty rare car back then, a 440M code
Man,
car.
that was the sweetest car ever. It was just so sweet. And Ronnie, when we bought that car, Ronnie, he took us down to Piedmont to the track, and he put me in. He drove the car down. And he put me in there with him and showed me everything that he did. And that was in every car that we bought for him. He set me in the car with him and let me go down the track with him, and just showed me what to do. He actually taught me when I'm jumping over something. I'm gonna get back to where we're at. I remember when we got the first Pro Stocker. Every time I would shift gears, I would yank it on the steering wheel. And Ronnie said, "You don't do that."
Okay.
He said, "Take your elbow, put it on the windowsill, and drive with one hand." And that corrected that problem.
Yeah, can't move the arm then.
I didn't realize that every time I shift gears, I was doing this. And he caught it. He said, "No, that's not working." He said, "Put your arm up on the windshield, on the like that, and drive it with one hand." And that did it.
Now, they didn't make very many of those cars, and to my understanding, Sox and Martin, they would build cars for other people,
Yes.
not just themselves.
Yes,
and this
they
was
did.
one of those cars
Yes.
that was built for them to sell.
Yes.
And was that car successful for you?
Oh, we made more money with that. We probably made, believe it or not, we didn't pay like $4,000 for that car.
That was it.
That was it. And
Well, I mean,
I
that
know
was-
we probably
that was-
made $40,000 with the car.
That was about what these cars cost back then.
Yeah, that's true. But that was an amazing deal though, for $4,000 for that car.
Now, do you remember anybody that you would know that you raced in that car back then, or?
Well, we beat one of the Mutt Brothers car out of that service station.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we beat them for like $5,000. We beat a guy named Robert L.
Okay.
They had a '69.
A Chevelle, right?
A '69 Chevelle, and they actually took the engine out of which we found out later. They took the engine out of a 10.5 GTO. They had a GTO with turn rams on it, and they put it in that Chevelle, and they still didn't stand a chance. We beat them going away, man.
So the Mutt Brothers, we've talked with Alan Cord, who's the son of one of the Mutt Brothers, Eugene Cord, and Eugene actually owned a nightclub with your brother.
Yes.
Were you part owners with that? Or?
Yeah, well, I was down with whatever my brother did. I mean, we our money went together, but we had our different things that we did. Like I was more into real estate.
Got you.
But my brother went.
You had several buildings, actually.
I had 10.
You had 10.
105 apartments.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I can give you the address, but it ain't necessary right now. Yes.
I was told that you would race in platform shoes.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Is that part of the nightclub stuff? Or?
Right. Well, you got to keep your act together. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
The guys still joke me about that right to this day.
Well, it's not how fast you went; it's how good you went. How good.
Well,
you
I had to
looked
look
while you
good
were
too. You know what I'm saying?
So, you're racing. Did you race the Mutt Brothers pretty on a regular basis, or kind of how?
One of their team cars. They were the king of the streets. They absolutely were the king of the streets. Like I said, we was younger, so we had our eyes set on them.
Right.
I would never forget. We bought the '68 Barracuda. We bought that for the Mutt Brothers Dart.
And that's the car on my shirt.
Yes.
Right here. They purchased this car from SNK.
Yes, that's right.
And it was going 10 twos.
10 twos.
And so you couldn't beat that car, and you decided to go out and buy a different car.
Yeah,
from
had
Sox
to.
and Martin?
Yeah, yes. Because the Cuda, I mean the Barracuda, the '69, it ran like 11 flats.
Gotcha.
It ran like 11 flats. A good run, you might get a 10.9 out of it. But
Okay.
it really was a low level second car. We knew we couldn't touch the Mutt Brothers with that.
Right.
So we went down to Sox again. Traded that car back into them.
Oh, you traded it back.
We
in.
traded back
Okay.
and bought this '68 Cuda. And they sold it to us for a 10 flat car.
When you say 68 CUDA, this is not the 68 Superstock CUDA that they're known for.
No, it was a Tony Branson car.
This car was built specifically for a guy named Tony Branson.
Yes.
And that's the car that you guys would race
Yes.
in New York.
Yes.
Okay.
And they claim he'd only drove it a 10 flat.
And that was promised to you as a 10-second car.
Yes,
Which
yeah.
would have been faster than the Dart.
Absolutely.
And you never ended up racing the Dart, or you did? Or?
I didn't race the Dart simply because a couple of weeks after we bought that car, because we were still in the testing mode.
Got you.
We was taking the car down to the track testing,
Okay.
making sure that we had our act together. You can go out there and race for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and give it away. So we was still testing our car, and Mutt got killed.
And that was how they got the name, the Mutt Brothers. What kind of happened after that? Did street racing kind of subside for a little bit, or?
Well,
I mean, I heard he was a pretty well-known guy.
He was the king. It was a very sad day when Mutt got killed on a motorcycle right up close to one of my buildings. I had 2 buildings on Miller Avenue and Hegeman, right off Linden Boulevard. He got killed on Linden Boulevard on a 750 Honda. I'll never forget it.
And so what happened after that? Did you race the Cuda in the street, the '68 car? Or?
A few times, a few times. But what happened there was, it was because of me being anxious, a little too anxious. We ended up racing the Cuda in at Pro Stock open competition.
Okay.
And that wasn't too good. We ran the 9-second racing Jungle Jim Lieberman, and that was a wrap.
Oh, you raced Jungle Jim.
I raced Jungle Jim had a Pro Stocker.
And where was this at?
At Englishtown, New Jersey.
And can you tell us a little bit about how that was, or?
Well, me and Jungle Jim got down to the finals. I'll never forget it. And Jungle Jim ran a 999. He ran a 998, and I ran a 999. I was the first African American in open competition in Pro Stock to go in the 9 seconds. Although I lost the race.
Oh, you did?
But I was the first one to go in the 9 seconds.
Against Jungle Jim?
Yeah, against Jungle Jim.
What was he like? I heard he was quite the character.
He was something different.
He was basically like...
He was a showman.
A showman, yes.
He was a showman.
He would do burnouts backwards at like 100 miles an hour is what I've read. I don't even know if that's possible.
And he wouldn't take his foot off. His funny car would be all over the place. In his funny car, it would be all over the place. It would be all over the track, and this guy would not take his feet out of it. He was so exciting.
Was Jungle Pam there?
Yeah, she was there. She was always there.
Always there.
Looking good, too.
What year would this have been when you were racing Jungle Jim?
That was 71.
1971?
That was 71.
And
that really was like the first year of Pro Stock. I think it started 70, 71.
1970, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And was your street racing career kind of over at that point?
It was kind of waning down then at that point. You know, because people's not going to give you their money. And see, we already had built a name for ourselves. We was undefeated. And they weren't going to just hand us no money.
Got you. Okay. Now, I also read that your brother was not really a fan of you racing in Pro Stock.
No, he wasn't.
He wanted you to stay kind of
on the down low.
On the street.
Yes.
And was there any animosity between you two?
No. I respect him to the hill. I thought he was the smartest person I ever knew. And he was. So I normally listen to everything he said. But at this particular time, I knew that I kind of knew what Pro Stock was going to be. I had a vision of what it would be.
It seemed like that's where everything was leading.
Yeah, I seen it.
All the main guys and stuff.
Yes, and I didn't even think about the monetary part of it at the time.
Gotcha.
My brother was strictly a money guy.
And so what would you have won in a Pro Stock race back then?
That's the bad part about it.
Okay.
$600.
Really?
Yeah.
When you could race on the street for $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a race.
You see what I'm saying?
Right, and
my brother was right in that degree.
Gotcha. Let's go back to the Pro Stock. So take us back to 1970, 1971. What is that looking like for you during those years? I mean, are you in Division I? Are you racing all over the country, or you're just staying just
No, I raced
local?
I raced in Canada.
Oh, okay.
I raced all over the country.
And were you competitive at all, or?
Look, let me tell you something. When you had that Sox morning equipment, when you went somewhere, you be number one qualifier. You would number two. I'm telling you, Sox and them had the top. And I drove the car. When you had a Sox morning car, you had two things to do: leave on time and shift on time, and let the rest of it count for itself.
Now, I read also somewhere that you would bring your cars back down here to North Carolina from New York.
Every weekend.
Did that get tiring at all?
No.
Really?
Because I wanted to win.
Okay.
I didn't want to have to service my car. I didn't have time for all that.
Got you.
When we raced on the weekend, we went straight back to Sox Martin and let them service it,
Oh,
and we went back and picked it up on Friday.
They would service it.
They would service it.
Would Jake King work on the engine at all, or?
Well, I was blessed. I was said to be the only guy that ever left out of Sox Motor with a Jake King engine. The first championship Cuda that I bought,
Okay.
it had a Jake King engine in it.
And that was 1972.
That's 72.
And that's
Uh,
this car right here.
Yeah, this car right here.
In the same car.
yes.
You know, I read a story, and that car won the national championship
Yes,
with
it
Sox,
did.
with Sox and
Yes,
Martin.
yes.
And then how much did you, or how did you acquire the car? You call them up, or how does that?
Well, I was already a customer.
You already bought a couple cars?
Yeah,
from
I was
them?
already a customer. I was trying to buy the car. They was using the car for a car clinic.
Gotcha.
So when they built the Duster, which I ended up buying, when they built the Duster didn't take off because it was a tube chassis car.
Gotcha.
That was,
That's this car right
yes,
here.
Yes, and it didn't take off. So the Duster, the Barracuda was still as fast as the Duster, but NHRA had changed their weight brake. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And the Cuda actually couldn't make the IHRA weight brake. It would be 80 pounds heavy.
Really?
You understand what I'm saying? So they held that car for a long time. And Buddy Martin called me up. He said, Will Smallwood, do you want that car? I told him, pump the brakes.
How much did you pay?
Up 30,000.
30,000.
30,000.
And that's, I was told that Buddy was a pretty savvy money guy, and basically just strictly business. And you would show up with the money, and that's how you got the cars.
Yes.
Plus your history of buying other cars from
Yes.
them, and that's kind of what developed your relationship with Sox and Martin.
And he told me that I asked him, I said, why do you buy this car? Why do you call me? He said, because I want some of that Northeast money. No, there's money in North.
Yeah, no, I completely
You know, the Heavies and the Ron Lyles and all them, the Levi, all them people came from up north.
Right.
There's just more money up there. It's a fact.
Yeah, just more people lived there back in the day.
So-
There was more to pull from,
Yes,
basically.
it was a strategic move by Buddy.
Gotcha.
And he told me that because a lot of people wanted that car. And he called Will Smallwood.
I read also that you took this car to a national event and you were turned away.
I ain't like that at all.
Can you walk us through that at all, or?
Well, what happened was they had a tussle race that year that the pro people were protesting NHRA
Okay.
for paying poorly, and they still pay poorly. And so they were protesting. They went out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. So that left the door wide open for me to win Indy.
Okay.
But when I go to Indy, my car had won that race the year before. Now when I go back to me, they tell me that my engine is setting back 3.5 inches. And the only way that I could run my car, I got to move my engine back. Now, you can't go disturb something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? They said, you can run C gas. I said, I'll see you later.
And so you just left.
I left.
You left. Okay.
Mad, felt like I had been treated racist. That's what I felt.
Now, did you take that car somewhere else after that, or?
I went down to Atco.
Atco.
Yeah, went down to Atco, and we had a wonderful time down there with it.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, whatever happened to that car after you had it? Did you sell that off, or what? Did you keep it for a while, or?
I sold that car. I sold that car to a friend of mine. His name is Thomas Kearney.
Okay.
Without the motor and transmission, because he
Oh, you
worked.
kept-
Because he worked for me for about 2 years driving my truck, and he wouldn't take any money. And he said, "Well, I just love racing with you. I just love racing." I gave him a little something, but he wouldn't take no real money from me.
Gotcha.
And he was like a kid brother to me. I loved him. Still do.
Is that car still around?
I don't know, man. I really don't know exactly where it is.
Gotcha.
I could dig a little deeper and find out, but I'm not sure where it is.
Fair enough. Now, after this car right here is kind of when you and, if you see it says Smallwood Brothers on it.
Yes.
Okay. That's when you and your brother James kind of separated at that time.
Yes.
And you kind of went solo.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And what was the reason for that? Was there he just wasn't trying to be in pro stock, or?
Well, he knew he was a good math guy. He knew a good example.
The money didn't add
the
up.
money didn't add up.
Right.
You got a you got a truck, you got spare motors, and you got a $70,000 rig chasing around $1,000 purses.
Doesn't make sense.
It don't make sense. And my brother, he went back to the streets.
Now, Your brother drove a '67 Camaro, is that right?
Yes.
And it was called Casper the Ghost.
Yes.
I've never seen any pictures of it or anything like that. Can you tell me a little bit about that car?
It was very famous. First it was a primer. First they raced it. They finally did paint it black, but they called it Casper the Ghost because it was a primer color.
It was in primer.
It was in primer. That was how it got the name.
What engine was in it?
It was 427.
427.
And then they got Scott Shaffer. I know you know Scott.
Yeah.
Scott built the engines for that car.
Okay. And so, did you go back down to North Carolina and buy this car, or how did you switch from this car to this car?
Well, I had them both at the same time.
Oh, you did have them both at the same time.
Yeah, I actually decided I wanted to do something else. I wanted to go a little faster.
Okay.
And I called Buddy, and he told me that car was for sale.
And that, I think you said that you paid $35,000 for that car.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was that seems like a lot of money back then?
Yeah.
Were you successful with this car?
Yes, I didn't win as many races, but I was more successful because I had built a name, and I was getting a lot of match races.
Now, the name Wicked Will Smallwood, where did that come from?
It came from my reflexes, how quick I was to get off the line.
And did someone give you that name specifically, or was that something that you came up with on your own, or?
Yeah, I kind of picked Wicked because first they would call me Superman Will. I didn't like that.
Gotcha. Doesn't sound good.
You know,
I think Wicked
and I'm the wrong color.
Well, I didn't think about that, but okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and that was doing black was stepping up a little bit. You understand? When I wanted my own identity. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, Wicked Will has a little bit of ring to it.
And I was wicked. I mean, if you pull up beside me, you'd have found out. Because you looked around, where's I got it? When you seen Soul Power, when you seen Soul Power in your face.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, it says Soul Power right here on the back.
Yes.
And that actually leads us into that plaque right there. You probably can't see it, but this plaque says United Soul Racing Team Pro Circuit 1974 to 1975, Wicked Will Smallwood. And can you tell us a little bit about how that came about, or just anything in general about the United Soul Racing team back then?
It was one of the greatest things in my life when we formed that organization. I mean, it really was big. Let me be honest. I'm just saying that blacks in America have been through a little bit of something. You know what I mean? And when we formed that organization, oh man, it was the joy on people's face, just to see us black guys doing that. It brought tears to my eyes.
And who all was part of that?
It was Brooklyn Heavy, Ronnie Lyles.
Brooklyn was part of that.
Yeah, Brooklyn was part of that.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, Herb drove one of his cars in one of our meets at Englishtown.
Gotcha.
Herb McCandless did.
Okay.
I mean, everybody wanted to be a part of it. I'm telling you, Sam Carroll and Stuart McDade and all those guys, they wanted to be a part of that. It was a big deal. Wikipedia said we had a race, it was in March of '74. Wikipedia said there was 14,000 people there at Englishtown, New Jersey. A lot of people, I heard people say, no, it wasn't that many. But they don't know the Northeast. They don't know the Northeast.
Yeah, I believe it.
They said it was 14,000 people there that we drew for that race.
Now, Englishtown, you would get paid to show up to race there.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well.
Because you would get paid not as much as some of the other people.
Absolutely. That was the issue I had with Vinnie Knapp.
The owner.
Yeah, Vinnie.
Or one of the owners.
Yeah, one of the owners. The Knapp family owned Englishtown.
Right.
And he called me up and offered me $650. And I said, Vinnie, you're giving Bill Jenkins $1,000.
Oh, Jenkins was getting $1,000.
He was getting $1,000.
Okay.
And he told me, he said, Will, you are not Jenkins. I said, I'll tell you what I will do. I keep my car home. You know what I mean? This was on a Monday.
Okay.
So Thursday come around, he know he needed my car, right? So Thursday come along, he said, Smallwood, I'll give you $850. I said, I'll take the $850. So I took the $850. I mean, I know I'm not Jenkins. You understand what I'm saying? But I know I got a good competitive car, and I got following. So we get to the race that Sunday. I performed well. And this is no lie. There's 2,000 people around my car. Yes, in the pits. And here come Benny. And when I look and I see Benny coming, and I said, Benny, I'm pointing at the crowd. I'm pointing at the crowd, people standing around my car. He said, Smallwood, that's why I hired you. I said, why do we have to wrestle about the money, Benny? Why do we have to wrestle about the money? You see what I'm saying? This is a true story.
Now, your fans, were they all African American?
No.
Okay.
No,
I wasn't sure really.
No. I mean, no. But I had, I had that race pride thing. Of course, I mean, because you want to pull your race up, you want to pull your peoples up. But I had fans that loved me, and they didn't care nothing about my race. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I loved them, but it was a thing about you want to let the black people know you can do this too. Well, anybody necessarily, but that's where I was at that time. That was my mindset. I want to show my people we can do this thing,
Gotcha.
And we can do it good. And that was the difference between my brother. My brother wanted dollars and cents, and I said, man, we doing this for our people, man. We got to show them that we can do this thing, that we can go out there and win too. And that was where I was at.
One question I wanted to ask you is, where did you get the color scheme, or what was the thought process behind the color scheme on your cars?
Well, I just found out the other day who painted my Duster. I forgot. His name was Johnny Knox.
Oh, okay.
I just found out. I forgot.
Understand. It was 50 years ago.
Yeah, right. And a friend of mine, Tommy, he told me, he said, Johnny Knox, the guy in Virginia Beach or Portsmouth, Virginia, painted that car. And it was really, really beautiful. I don't know exactly why we came. Me and my brother sat down and we hashed it out, and so we ended up with that color. I don't know, exactly why, but okay. the two of us kicked it around.
Sure.
And if you kind of notice how the ring around it,
it's red.
Yeah, that. And the Lyle's car was kind of like that too, so I don't know. Maybe we did a little copying. I don't know. I don't know.
Did you look up to Ronnie back then, or were you equal? Or
I looked up to Mutt, the one that got killed.
Gotcha.
Because Ronnie struggled when he first started driving.
Yeah, he wasn't successful until like the
later on he was as good as anybody.
Yeah.
He really was. He struggled.
71, 2, 3. Yeah. It wasn't like early.
In the early days, he struggled.
Gotcha.
I did too, but I caught on quicker. I caught on much quicker than he did. But later on, I really respected him.
Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Ronnie Socks. In other words, I've read that he would take a lot of time to kind of teach you whenever you were down here in North Carolina how to race. And I know we touched on that earlier a little bit, but what was he like in person?
He was a wonderful guy.
Okay.
He was a sweet human being, and he took a lot of pride in teaching me. I think one reason because I learned quickly.
Okay.
And every time that a new part came out, he would take me to the track, and we would experiment with that part, like Coney shocks or the Linko transmission or the 16 plug heads. 16 spark plug we had.
Yeah.
And so everything that came out, he would take me down to the track and show me that it actually excelled, that it worked. And so we spent a lot of time together, as far as that was concerned. Okay. And I grew real close to him.
Was your career kind of over by the mid-'70s?
Yes,
yes.
I was winding it down.
You were winding it down.
Yeah.
And was that just because you were losing interest or something happened?
Well, my brother won't race. He won't race with me. He would go to a race track.
So it wasn't like a family thing
It wasn't
anymore.
there. Once that, but I'm telling you, you got to have somebody that you love doing that with you.
Truck, trailer, driving all over the place.
Yes. Once he kind of, because he went back to the streets, doing his thing and winning, being undefeated. Okay. But I missed him.
Gotcha.
Out there.
It was just fun with your brother racing.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
Yeah. And I had some other guys I had, and that was all right, but it wasn't like me and him after a race, the conversation that we had.
Sure. And
races, it was a family thing.
So you're here in Washington, and you're a preacher now.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about what that's like, or?
Well,
you went from the track basically to the pulpit, and that's kind of what your book is about.
Yes.
From the streets of drag racing to the pulpit.
Yes. Well, I tell you, I lived a good life. God had been good to me. I lived a good life, did everything that I dreamed of. I lived my dreams. It's amazing. A little black boy from Washington, North Carolina, born in 1946, and to go off into the big city and live your dreams. is amazing. But I was able to do it, not knowing God had his hand on me at all times. So after he let me do my thing and shine in the light and all that kind of stuff, and one day he said, now it's time to come on home, boy. Come on back home to me. So you can use what I let you experience to help other people with that.
Cool. Before we go here, is there anything that you would like to tell the audience?
Well, love the Lord with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul. And racing is a great, great sport. It's a sport that brings people together of all races. I got a joke to tell you. It's so true. When I go to these races and these racing events, I have never seen so much love.
I would agree with that.
I have never in my life seen so much love where people they just put everything aside.
It's just a great time.
Yes, they just put everything aside. I've never seen people act like that. You don't have no problem. But watch out when you get in the parking lot. Am I telling you the truth?
No,
it changes just that quick.
You're not.
But when you're in the vineyard,
you see some interesting stuff in the parking lot for sure.
Yeah, but when you're in the vineyard, I mean, everybody's people. It's all about the love of cars. Everybody's wonderful, wonderful. I mean, you love it. You hate to go.
I would go to races down in Florida, and I was the only white guy there.
That's right.
You know, watching the donk races. And
Yes.
I'll be honest with you, it was the funnest stuff I ever did.
I'm telling you, and you're gonna get treated right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't care. I don't know what they do outside of that, but I have never felt nothing like it.
Yeah.
But boy, when you get in that parking lot, the atmosphere changes.
It does. It does. It's the truest thing I ever heard.
So it's something to that. It's something to it. When you got something in common, that thing that you got in common. And them cars, we love cars. And we put everything else on side just for a minute. So remember that, y'all. Remember to treat your brother like you would treat yourself. What did Jesus, when the disciple asked Jesus, they said, with all this stuff that you had taught us, so what is the greatest commandment? He said, what is the greatest commandment? That's what the disciple asked him. And he said, love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Awesome. Well, I was going to shake your hand, Will.
All right now, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate you.
I hope you don't cut that part out.
Oh, absolutely not. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that you were able to teach us here today. And if you guys liked this video or found value in it, please give us a thumbs up for Will. If you have any questions for Will or anything like that, just ask in the comments. I'm sure you're more than happy to answer them.
Yes.
And you guys have a great day.
Peace.
Cool.